Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Clown-versation. Today, I'm going to be talking to the wonderful, wise, and fantastically talented Ira Seidenstein, who is waiting for us right now, all the way in Australia. So you're so welcome to this Clown-versation. If you're new to the Clown Spirit family, please hit that subscribe button right now. Say hello in the chat. Share this video with your friends. Give us a like, all those things. I'm going to be talking to Ira Seidenstein in just a minute, so don't go away. It's just a conversation with a fellow clown. It's not very serious, we're clowning around. It's really just a clown-versation. All right, that was him, and this is me. Hello, welcome everybody. In just a minute, I'm going to be talking with Ira and bringing him on for an amazing conversation. But first, I just wanted to mention a couple of things we've got going on at the moment. I'm super excited because tomorrow is a Clown X Masterclass. These are monthly masterclasses with experts in the clown field. They're online, and they're available to everybody all around the world if you have an internet connection. So tomorrow's is going to be with Joe Diefenbacher, who is a fantastically talented physical comedian, clown, street performer, and he is doing his masterclass on the clown and the camera. So it's really looking at how can we be creative with this device, this technology that we have at our fingertips, right? Which is something clowns have always been great at, playing, being creative, constructive with whatever the latest technology is. And we're living in this new world of Zoom and telecommunication. And of course, because we're clowns, we take advantage of this as well. So this workshop is going to be exploring all of that. You can still jump into that workshop if you want. Just have a look at my website and look up Clown X. You can click on Clown X at the top and find out how to subscribe. It's actually a monthly subscription, and I'm super excited because next month in the masterclasses, we have Avner Eisenberg, Avner the Eccentric teaching in March. And then in April, new announcement, we have the amazing Moshe Cohen teaching on the Clown X Masterclass. After that, we have Olivier Hugues Terreau, and then after that, we have Patrick van der Boom, and just some of the best teachers from all over the world coming at you every single month. So get involved, get in on the Clown X, and it would be lovely to have you in our community. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very excited because I think that Ira Seidenstein is the only person in the whole world who is more active on social media, in the clown world, let's say, who's more active on social media than I am. He is just there all the time, always uploading new, really interesting, obscure information that is new to me, and probably some of it is new to him. He told me that he just found a new movie or a sort of treasure trove of old silent and old classic black and white comedy just today. And he's posted it on his page already. And he's just constantly producing, informing, challenging our beliefs and our ideas around clowning in such a vibrant and exciting and important way. Ira, I can't run through his whole biography because there's just too much. He's worked with Cirque du Soleil in Corteo. He has been in has worked on over 20 Shakespeare productions, 140 productions overall. I expect it's gone up by now. He has been in Slava's Snowshow for a number of years. He's a veteran performer. He trained originally in the Suzuki Training Method. He also is a trained Iyengar yoga teacher, was formerly a tumbling and comic acrobat, a mime, slapstick comedian, classical actor, director, playwright, and has choreographed over 200 comic sketches and slapstick acts. He has written 2 books. I mean, is there anything that Ira Seidenstein hasn't done, ladies and gentlemen? I don't think so. So with that, is my very great honor to introduce and welcome Ira onto this Clown-versation. Hello, Ira. Oh, where did they all go? Ira, hello, welcome.
Hi there. We have a bit of a delay, a lag, I think.
Yeah, we do, because you're all the way in Australia, so we can't blame those poor satellites. They're working hard for us.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you great, yeah. Can the folks at home hear you?
Yeah.
I think so. Mike says, hello, Ira. Are you on Facebook? How do we follow you? And Deborah says, woohoo, catfish in Southern Illinois for an event tomorrow. And folks, if you're watching, please join in on the chat with your questions, with your thoughts, whatever you'd like to say to Ira so that this is a conversation. Oh, look, tons of stuff in the chat. That's awesome. Ira, how are you doing today? I know we have this little bit of a delay, so we're going to have to deal with that. I expect it'll come and go and people will forgive us. Thank you so much for being here today.
My pleasure. Thank you, Barnaby. And we'll try to adjust with the lag, but I think it will, everybody will just have to be a little bit patient because you and I, Barnaby and I, are just trying to adjust ourselves. And we have to kind of leave a gap so the other person can come in.
Yes, exactly. So we're going to be playing that game.
Yeah. So it seems like there's almost a 3-second delay.
Yeah, there is. So we'll just leave a little gap and everything should be good. So
Okay.
Ira, I always ask my guests this question, the first question I jump in with. So I'm going to ask you if that's okay to get us started. How did you get into clown world in the first place? What was your sort of intro or entree into the clown world?
Okay. First of all, as far back as I can really remember, certainly by the time I was 5, I was clowning and I was doing pratfalls and joking around and things like that. And I know that because that's when I started to go to school. I went to school. I started school a little bit early. And when I came home in the afternoon, my parents were working class people, so there weren't people home. And I was able to watch TV. And the Three Stooges had a TV show on for the kids when they came home from school. And I very quickly got obsessed with the Three Stooges. So I would see them every afternoon, Monday to Friday, and they would show some of their short films. And I wouldn't just watch. I would get up and I would imitate them. And if there was some things I'd like, I might do them. But I wasn't always just sitting passively. I got excited, so I'd get up and I'd do falls and things like that. So that's really from the time I was 5. I have an interesting story before that. So I'll just tell you that really quickly, if that's okay. That's the delay.
Yeah. That's great.
Okay. So my parents actually met on a New Year's Eve. They both went to see, in those days, they had the big bands. This is in the late 30s or early 40s, 1940s, early. And they each went with friends to go see the band, but particularly they went to see the headliner clown. So they both loved clowns. And they went to see Red Buttons was the headliner. And that's not to be confused with Red Skelton. It was Red Buttons. They went to see him. And the support act that night was another clown, but he was an acrobatic clown, and his name was George Carl. So my parents actually met that night going to see these clowns. And so I grew up in a home, even though my parents were just working class people. They had a real love of clowns. So, it came really naturally, and it was supported in that way.
George Carl is an amazing clown. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah. And at that time, of course, he would have been also very much of an acrobat as well. Mm. He was actually, George was a proper tumbler, and he was also a what's called a top mounter in the teeterboard act. So he would have been, I think, on a 4 high at that time was the highest people went. And it could have been a 3 high, but I think it might have been 4 high. So he would have done a somersault or a double somersault up onto the top, landing on the other person's shoulders. So it had been 1, 2, and maybe he was landing 3rd, or maybe it had been 1, 2, 3, and he would have been landing 4th. And he toured in the Tom Mix Circus. This is in the 30s. And my clown teacher, Danny Chapman, he was a flying trapeze artist at that time, and they were in the Tom Mix show at the same time, the same year or years. Mm. Okay.
So did you, because in your work, in your writing, you talk a lot about all the different influences that it's really important to have as a clown. Like some of the best clowns are dancers, trained dancers and trained acrobats and so on. So for you, did you come to clown really having all that training first? Or did you think, I want to be a clown, I need to go and get all these other trainings to become a better clown? Which way around was it?
Okay. Well, of course, I was a clown, as I'm explaining, really since I was 5, and my friends knew that I would clown around. I was also very quiet, and I would be very silent, and I would listen a lot to conversations. Mm. But I would explode. I would get up and I would do something crazy, and I had a couple of really close friends, and we would like city kids at that time. We would walk around and run around and go on our cycles and get in trouble or cause trouble and things like that. So I grew up this way, and it was going to be a problem. So I decided I needed to do something about it when I was 17, and I joined the Navy. I enlisted in the U.S. Navy, and I thought that would help me to discipline. And I tell this story in the book Clown's Secret. That's the book, and you asked me to bring it, so that's the book, Clown's Secret. And I tell 100 stories in there, but I also give instructions about clowning. But when I went in the Navy, there was a number of coincidences that happened where I ended up clowning in the Navy as well. And just really quick, when I finally got to my first duty station, after I had done my boot camp and I had done my training as a radarman, an operations specialist, then I was assigned to my first ship. And this is the strangest thing I'm going to tell you, that when I got on board the ship, and one of the guys from the radar came down to take me, he took me to show me where my bunk was, where our sleeping quarters were. Then he took me up to CIC, the Combat Information Center, where I was going to work. And he opened the door, and there was a guy pretending to be a monkey, down like in a squat room like this. And he took the guy who was escorting me, he took him by the hand, right? And then another guy came like a monkey and took me. And there was at least one guy hanging from the rafters. There was another guy on a guy who was sitting, and he was picking nits from his hair. So there was a dozen guys, American sailors, all pretending to be monkeys. And what had happened to me, and this is pure karma. Yeah, this is true. And the truth is, I was assigned to a group that was like the MASH, you know, the TV show MASH. I was assigned to a group that was notoriously the clowns of the Navy.
Wow.
So I was ruined. I was ruined.
I love this story so much. And so was this complete coincidence, Ira?
Yeah. And I would say, you know, whether we believe in karma or not, I may or may not believe in, I don't know, but it's a great word, or it's a word for phenomenon that happens in life, you know? So karma itself may or may not be true, but we're aware that there's this phenomenon that happens in humanity, in our life passage, where these coincidences, these synchronistic things happen. And the word we use, the word from Sanskrit is karma. But we can't say that proves karma. We can say that there's a phenomenon that happens, and the best word for it is called karma. And I was really amazed. I was so I would have been white like a ghost, because I understood it was my whole life was clashing. I went to get away from this, and there I was assigned to it.
Interesting. So how did you go from that
in my life?
How did you go from that to
become a clown?
Yeah.
Okay. So what happened? And again, I tell this, explain it more. But when I got out of the Navy after I finished my 4-year contract, I went to a community college, which is like a TAFE, and I took classes in political science and sociology, and did a French course. I did a psychology course. You know, I didn't know what to do, so I wanted to take another crack at education, and I took subjects I was interested in. And it's a coincidence. There's a couple coincidences, but I fell into the theater. You know, I got cast in something, and the theater director saw me in a student production. He said, "You should be an actor." Okay, so she put me in her production of A Midsummer Night's Dream, and a wonderful group of people. It was incredible, wonderful, and we went to a experimental theater festival in Ann Arbor, Michigan, right? And at that festival, on a Saturday afternoon, there were 2 clown troupes out on the lawn on the green, and the first one was the Great Salt Lake Mime Troupe. They were wonderful. They were exceptional. So when I watched them, I thought, this is something I should be doing. And they said at the end of the show, they said, "Don't go away. We're gonna change everything here, and then the next group is going to set up, and they're our friends, and they're going to do a show." So I stuck around. I watched that show, and that was called the Friends Road Show. And of course, Django was in that. And I loved it. I loved the show, and that was when I decided. I had already decided in the first show, but the second show went bang. That's it. I thought, this is what I should do. So I went up to Django. I didn't know him. I went up to the guy who was like the main actor, and I said thank you. And I said, "Is there anywhere where I could study clown, to be a clown?" He said, "Yeah." He said, Ringling Circus has a clown college now. He said, "You could write to them." I said, "Okay." That was the end. So I wrote to them, and that's a whole nother really crazy story. But that's how I started to come to clown. I didn't actually get in that. I didn't get accepted for one question I answered honestly, and everybody who got in didn't answer that question honestly. They were more streetwise than I was, and it had to do with drugs. Have you ever taken, experimented, or been addicted to any of the following drugs? And they had 5 of them. And I was so straight and honest a person, honestly, that I had marijuana at that time, maybe twice, coincidentally, because somebody I was with had it. So I had like a puff or something. And I marked marijuana because I wanted to be a clown, and I really revered clowning. I thought clowns really honest and really, you know. And when I showed up, anyways in case somebody didn't come. Maybe there was empty space. And when Bill Ballantyne, who was the head of the clown college at the time, he said, I know you were a finalist, but we had over 3,000 applicants. He said, I remember your name. He said, let's go up into the office and we'll check in the file and see what was wrong, and maybe you can apply for next year. I said, okay. So he went up, got the files of the finalists. He said, yep, you're here. He opened it up and he looked through it and he went, oh, this is it. He said, you see this question? I said, yeah. And he looked at me. He said, Ira, nobody who got in answered that question yes. Do you understand? And I went, oh. He said, just apply again next year. And he said, you'll get in.
So how old were you
then? Then I didn't know what to do because I had given up. I was 23. I got out of the Navy when I was 21.
Okay.
So 21 to 23, I was, studying, and also I fell into the theater. So I also began to. I didn't so much study theater. I did theater, but I studied political science and sociology and liberal arts. It's called humanities.
Mm.
And then I found my teacher there.
Now I was going to just ask Ira,
my clown teacher.
The period of time. We're going to come back to Ringling, but I'm just trying to get a timeline. So you were 23 when you went to Ringling, and then when we're going to look at Harlequin's Dreams in a minute, and I'm wondering how old were you when you made that show?
Okay. I was 40, and I considered that my swan song. I really wanted to stop performing at that stage because I knew I was always thinking about the things that I actually do now. My whole life is about teaching and mentoring and writing, and trying to understand certain things about clowning that maybe we all understand, but I've articulated them in maybe a different way, So at 40 is when I did Harlequin's Dreams, and the next day, literally, I was on the plane to go on a contract to Europe to teach Shakespeare. I had a 3-month contract, and I also, when I got there, they asked me, "Would you also teach acrobatics?" Because they knew I was an acrobat. I said, "Yeah, okay." So I was teaching acrobatics and Shakespeare. They were different classes, same group of people, but that's what I did. So the show we're going to see, I was 40.
So before we watch it, let's just set that up by talking about, what were the kind of seminal experiences that occurred. I mean, it's a big time span between 23 and 40, but obviously from Ringling, you couldn't have. I don't think you could have learned what we see in this clip that we're gonna see. There's so much there. There's so much richness and depth. Ringling was part of that, but maybe you can give us a bit of an overview of what were the key sort of training moments or learning moments and skills that you acquired over that sort of 15-year period that led up to this swan song of Harlequin's Dream.
Well, let me clarify something, because I didn't actually go to Ringling. I didn't get in the course. And then, like a day later, I found this old clown named Danny Chapman, who theoretically, he was maybe the first person who taught or set up the clown college before it was called that. I think he did it in 1967. In 1968, the clown college started officially with the great Bill Ballantyne. But Danny had started it in, I believe, in 67, probably on a more casual basis and with less teachers. But so I apprenticed to Danny, not to Ringling, not in the Ringling Company, and not in the Ringling Clown College. And Danny's daughter was the first one I met through an ad, and she got me to Danny's number, and I talked to his wife, answered the phone, and then Danny was going to be home later. She said, just come by and you'll meet him then. But the daughter said to me, when I told him the story I just told you about trying to get into Ringling, she said, you're lucky. She said, you got to meet my dad. Okay. I didn't know who his dad was. And then she gave me the number. I called, and the wife asked me, well, what are you doing here? And I had to tell her I had applied to go to Ringling Clown College. She said, and I said, well, I didn't get accepted. She said, you're lucky. She said, you have to meet Danny. I said, okay. So she made the appointment. She said, he's going to be home. She said, come over and you'll meet him. And I meet him, and he asked me, the same thing. And I told him, and he said, well, you're lucky. And I don't know if I was or wasn't, but the thing is, I didn't go to the clown college as a student, and I didn't work with Ringling that way. And so Danny, when he taught me, the first routine he taught me was his own act with his dog, right, with the broom and getting hit, and then the dog hits you in the pants and you fall down. I remember the first time I took a pratfall for him. I was quite strong. I caught myself, and he said, no, he said, you let go, fall all the way. I said, okay, let's try it again. And then the dog hit me in the butt again, knocked me over, and I fell flat. That's it. So he taught me, for the pratfall, you have to really go flat out, right? So I started to learn things that are in Harlequin Dreams that we're going to see, and I started to do acrobatics classes there with Danny's friend, who was the main acrobatic teacher in Sarasota, Florida. Willie was his name. Great man, beautiful. And then there was a number of things that happened, and somebody told me about the Dell'Arte School in California, and I didn't know what Dell'Arte meant. They told me it means Commedia dell'arte. I said, what's that? And they said, Italian comedy. I said, well, why don't they call it Italian comedy? So I didn't know about all this arty farty stuff. Even though I had done theater now for 2 years, even though I knew a lot about clowning since a kid. So I was actually doing clowning. I was falling down stairs. I was walking into walls, falling out of chairs since I was 5 or 6. So I was doing a lot of these things. I would watch the clowns. I would imitate them on TV. And yeah.
Yeah, no, I just want to also just remind people at home, if you have any questions for Ira, just throw them into the chat and we'll feed them into the conversation. So there's an interesting thing here, Ira, about you having these kind of this tendency and skill from a very early age, but then meeting teachers. So
yes,
you needed both elements. It sounds
like. Yes. That's correct. I'm just trying to give you a little bit of background so you don't confuse that. I didn't just do a teacher and just learn from them. I was coming packed with a lot. And then my teachers were wonderful to me. They were very good to me, but it's just Danny, I was with him 4 months, and then there was something, and I didn't know what to do. And somebody told me about this this place, and they had a 10-week course at that time. Dell'Arte. Well, this was 1975, and then I started, I think, on January 3rd, 1976. So that was there had been different attempts to started, and they had this building they had bought, this old hall. So they had facilities to actually establish the school. And of course, this is not just the school; it's Carlo Mazzoni Clemente, the founder. So he would have only been, I think he was about 57 at that time. But he had a lot of really interesting experiences and life experience. And his wife, Dane Hill, was really the thing that made the school start to happen. And she was a tremendous, knowledgeable theater and acting and singing and voice person. She's incredible talent. She was tremendously funny. So she was one of our teachers, but she was only there part-time because she was a university professor. Anyways, so I went to the school, and Carlo in particular was very, very good to me. He understood that I was like a living Harlequin. He understood that I was a real player, and he worked with me accordingly. For some of the younger teachers, I don't know. That's up to them how they perceived me and what they felt I needed. And I needed to learn things, but Barnaby, the truth is, I went and I found books. I trained myself 2 hours in the morning before school started. I was actually processing something right away from the beginning. So even though, and I'm trying to answer your question very accurately, that I didn't just go to a school and I didn't just go to teachers. I was training myself early in the morning, and then I would meet with whatever the teachers did and asked me to do and however they taught me. But I was processing, and I was also questioning some of the things that were said to me. It didn't quite make sense. It seemed a little bit that there was other things that had to be told to us as students, but they weren't told. Not necessarily from Carlo. Carlo was a different thing. Carlo was pure. He was fire. He was an intuitive person. And physically he was unbelievable. He was like a bull. He was so strong. He had been a very great athlete. So I'm giving you a more complete answer to your question.
Yes.
I hope that's okay. I'm just filling out a bit.
Yes, I like this because it really connects with the theme which you talk about in your writing a lot of what are the schools and the teachers not telling us or not teaching us that we need to acknowledge and feed on.
Yes, exactly, Barnaby. Thank you. And that's where my method comes in. That's where my ideas come in. They're not to say don't go to a teacher, not to say don't go to a school, but it's to explain that the truth is something else. That you have to do your own authentic research. And my work, all my writings, now there's 59 blogs, there's 2 books, that it's to facilitate, to assist you, even if you're a teacher or director or clown yourself, it doesn't matter. It's not against that. It's just to say that there's this other angle that I'm coming from that can actually enrich the experience. And I have a very deep passion for the field of clowning itself, that I feel that it will benefit from this type of information, which I explain is actually the authentic pathway that's been, although people have appropriated it, it's actually not the authentic way. The authentic way comes from the clown to the clown, not from the teacher per se. That's a different process.
Clown to clown.
In my latest blog, I just wrote about. Sorry. Yeah.
I just wanted to. Go on.
And it's really, my last 2 blogs are talking about this. The one blog is called Clown Authentic or Appropriated, and the next blog I just wrote yesterday, and it explains the authentic way of clown, how clown mentoring actually happens, and I explain the difference between teaching and mentoring. Now I do both, but there's a very big difference. So what happens, Barnaby, is that we've confused the idea of going to a teacher, that the teacher's going to do this thing for us, that they're going to mentor us. And actually that's not accurate. Even it's not always the case. Okay, so I tried to articulate that so we can understand that that's probably where the big difference is in the whole field of clowning in the last 50 years or so. There's this difference between how the authentic way of clowning happened, clown to clown, and usually within the working situation, right? Not in a classroom. But then there's the thing that's the clown teaching in the schools and the workshops, and that's a different thing. They're related, and what I'm trying to show you is that in a way I would say my method is like a bridge between those two worlds. And I wouldn't expect I have a particular story, and I would not expect I'm not going to teach anybody who doesn't have that story. I'm not that way at all. I'm not inclined that way. Whoever shows up, I'll teach. But there's a lot of missing information. So my method is to help people organically through their own body, through their own intelligence, through their own creativity, to attune to this big lineage of clown. And it's public. The lineage of clown is public. But how you tune into that, that's a different thing. And all of us can benefit from this. Experienced clowns, directors of clown, teachers of clown. It's not. It seems like it's against. It's not. It's providing this other information and this bridge.
I think it's a good moment to watch a little bit of this of the Harlequin show. What do you think?
Yeah, please. That's called Harlequin Dreams. This show.
Do you want to set it up at all, or should we just go for it?
Just the setup is that it started off as an autobiographical show, the first couple pieces, and it's literally telling about being an ethnic immigrant to Australia, and it tells 4 dreams that I actually had, and the result that happened from those 4 dreams, that something actually occurred. And then we come to the finale part, which is a surprise to the audience, because I then actually do a clown act. And this person who you'll see, there was no hint that there was another person in the show until just before this. He came out from the audience. He was a plant, what we call. So he was my friend. He was my student. A wonderful actor and a great guy. His name's Eric Mitzek. So he's already in there, and we're doing this scene, has already started, this last scene, and he's the entrepreneur. And I'm just the schmuck. Okay?
Okay, here we go. If we can make it work. No, it's not playing right now. And just try this again. I'm going to try it again, Ira, because
okay,
I didn't want to play.
Okay.
Well, that's as close as that artist is going to get. We're going to forward it to the moment right here.
All right. Extend your arm. towards your left nostril. All right. Left nostril. Higher. All right. Now, put your left index finger up your left nostril. All right, take it out. Take it out. Okay, please remove your left index finger from your left nostril. Remove all objects from all orifices. Halfway! All right. Now, put your left leg over your left shoulder, then bring your right leg over backwards around your right shoulder, and fall into the splits. I want to put your face on the ground backwards. So that's not funny, all right? No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not funny. Is that funny? All right, that's funny. So now, I want you to stay here, okay? Stay here. See your head up, all right? Harlequin, get up.
There's so much beautiful work there, Ira. It's just like, I'd like to just keep watching it, but I wonder if there's anything there that you want to specifically draw out.
Yeah, you know, all of that business, if a person knows the history of clown, and I suppose also Commedia dell'arte to a certain degree, because we're not really doing Commedia dell'arte, and I make a distinction earlier in the show that I'm not Harlequino, the Italian Harlequino with the mask. I'm Harlequin. Okay, and that costume is Harlequin. It's not Harlequino. It's not the Commedia dell'arte. It's a different style, even though it's connected. But the Lazzi, the stage business, the stage craft I'm doing is pure Commedia dell'arte. It's the real thing, except it doesn't have the accoutrements. It doesn't have the superficial things of the mask and doing the specific poses and things. It has the actual stagecraft, which is another thing, and that's the real clowning. If you want, you could say that's my interpretation. That's okay, but I'm telling you, all that craft is the real authentic clowning. But I've applied it theatrically and in a modern way. So, but it's all very deeply rooted in the clown tradition. Anybody who knows a clown, who's experiencing it, they'll recognize everything right away. But yeah, I've blended it my own original way with Eric, with my colleague, and I directed that. And he was very young at the time, and he was a fantastic guy, fantastic actor, and fit as well. He had been a gymnast a little bit, but we put that together in a park in 6 sessions. And now you only saw 2 minutes of it, but there's a whole act, and put it together. It was about an hour and a half or 2 hours some days in 6 sessions. I put it together. So that's coming from all this stuff that I saw since I was a kid. It's integrated in me, and I did train. And there are certain things that I learned, like Danny told me. You know, if you take a pratfall, fall flat. Okay. Now you'll see that I fall into this position because I'm going to do the acrobatic thing when I get tossed. Wasn't such a good acrobatically. It wasn't perfect, but c'est la vie. So I hope that fills in a little bit.
Yes,
Eric. I just want to say one other thing. Eric, I was teaching acting to. I was teaching him classical acting, text, scenes. I had nothing to do with clowning or anything. He's learning to study to be an actor. It's just that I could see he was so funny and he was strong. So we had the idea to do something together.
So Ira, I want to potentially look at another video of a chaplain's eye, but also
Yeah.
we don't have that much time left. And I really, really want to give you the opportunity to talk about some of your teaching principles and these amazing kind of concepts you have, like the quantum point, quantum performance, the 4 articulations of performance, the core mechanics. You know, you've coined a lot of these really interesting kind of concepts and phrases around your pedagogy. And I think it would be really fascinating for people to understand not only what they are, but where they came from. Like, how did these teaching concepts kind of emerge and evolve from your work? And just a little bit about what they are, as much as you can, in words.
Okay. You know, the core mechanics is central to the whole process. And core mechanics is just 10 movements, and it's a choreography. It has hundreds of counts. But everybody who's done any movement or yoga or martial art or dance or done theater training with the movement class, you'll recognize these movements. But I put them in a certain sequence, and I've broken them down a certain way. It takes 10 minutes once you know the whole thing. But I created that for myself because I was at Del Arte, and I was on one hand I was I was exposed to things I had never heard of or had never tried that way, and I was trying to learn. I was a diligent student, and as I said, I would show up 2 hours before school started, and I was training myself, and I was looking at things that we had done the day before, at exercises. I was thinking how they feel from me, but I started to understand also that these things, there's a mechanical aspect to these things. It's not magic, or the magic is based on mechanics. And so I started to analyze movement just from a purely simple mechanical way, and I set that up. Now, what happened, though, is I realized that creativity, clowning, your imagination also has a mechanical aspect to it. So it's rooted in the body and the awareness of what you're doing, right? So it's not just the movement per se, it's the mind and the body, which is what yoga is. Yoga is not the postures. Yoga is the mind and the body. That is what yoga is. Or it's an integration of the body and the mind. And we could say the spirit if you want, whatever that might be. I don't know. So I started to make these discoveries through the body, through the pure mechanics. And I started to quickly get that this applies to clowning. This applies to mind. This applies to creativity. So there's 2 particular exercises in the number 6 movement in the core mechanics is called the twist choreography. And once you know it, it takes 1 minute, and it's amazing. But I also based that on Vitruvius Man, on Da Vinci. I was reading about Da Vinci at the time, and I was reading about this drawing and how it was based on this I can't remember what Vitruvius was, but he was like a architect, and he was a little bit like a philosopher. So he was mixing math and body and space, and so Da Vinci was very inspired by him, and that's why he made that drawing, and he understood what Vitruvius was actually saying, and the drawing is a symbol of that philosophy. So I took that and I made the twist is the Vitruvius exercise, and out of that, something got triggered in my mind, and I realized that's the trigger for the whole creative. It doesn't matter. People have used my same method, but there's somebody studying music right now, and they're using that method for their study of music. And theoretically they're starting to compose, and they're using the ideas for composition. They're what I call universal principles. So there's this twist exercise, which is purely physical and mechanical, but it involves your mind and involves your fingertips and your eyes. And out of that, I made this thing called the creative twist, which is my first creative exercise. And everything stems from those. Okay?
Could you show us the exercise or something from it?
Oh, let's see. I can do. I'll show you a part of it really quick. All right.
I'll try and join in.
Because it's okay. I'll demonstrate it. And look, the basic thing is I stand with a second position like in ballet, but not with a big turnout. So just standing with your feet wide. Now that's the same position in the military. You know, if they go parade rest, you go like that. It's a stable position with the feet apart. Okay, and I twist from the pelvis. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, and I do 4 small. They thighs down windows, and then I do 3, 1, 2, and I take my arms up and I go around like that. Right. Then I drop and I twist, and my back heel, you can't see, but my back heel is pulling me down. Okay, so that's the first part of the twist choreography. So what it's doing is what you don't see is that it's driven from the pelvis, right? And that's like where our kundalini comes from. So anytime you do a spinal twist in yoga, it stimulates your central nervous system. But what I have also is I'm using my eyes, so I'm stimulating my ocular nerve. So when I'm going like this, I'm not looking there. I'm looking around, and I look there, and I look around, and I look there. So your eye is active and coordinated with the movement, and that stimulates your brain.
This is great.
This is an extraordinary exercise, but I'm telling you, it's stemming from Da Vinci. And Da Vinci, it's stemming from Vitruvius. It's talking about the body. The construct of the body is not muscle. That's part of our body. It's the physiology. It's the chemistry. It's the movement of energy. It's the same thing that the yogis knew, or the Indians, the Hindus knew, or the Sanskrits.
It's interesting you say that because well, a couple of things. One is that this really reminds me of Qigong. Like there is a move very much like this in Qigong. And but it's also making me think of Feldenkrais, which is my wife is trained in Feldenkrais. And what you're saying resonates very much with a lot of Moshe Feldenkrais's ideas, I think.
It should, because it's universal principles.
Of course.
So again, this I created before I studied yoga. I created it before I ever heard of Moshe Feldenkrais, who was a genius, great, and the Feldenkrais technique is great, and all that. And before I ever heard of Qigong, I had already begun to teach myself Tai Chi out of a book, and I had extraordinary things happen. You know, I had done that before, just as a guy. I got a book. I wanted to get fit, and I thought, oh, I'll take that. It says you get fit in 20 minutes. That sounds good to me. So I took that book, and I started to teach myself Tai Chi. But when I did that, there was very cosmological things that happened. But you see, again, what I'm coming back to is that the movement, the choreography of it is stimulated from Vitruvius and from my own imagination, and understanding that the counts count. So there's 4 big twists, 4 small twists, 3 big twists, and on the third one, it takes you around, and there's some other details to it. But in the end, and this is where it's different than Feldenkrais, it's different than yoga, and it's different than Qigong and Tai Chi, that exercise takes 1 minute. And in 1 minute, you go bang. It's very profound what happens.
So this is a great exercise if you just want to, if you're just improvising or creating some work, and you need to get really quickly into your most deep kind of creative space, then this is an exercise that sounds like it would be fantastic to get you there right away.
this is part of it. The next one, the other Vitruvian exercise, they're a pair. And the one that I created from that movement, which began my whole creative understanding. I'll show you that in a minute if you want, or if we can talk another time. We don't have to do it all now. That's up to you. But this exercise, the two Vitruvius exercises, they're the ones I did when I was in Cirque du Soleil. I only had a replacement contract, so I did, I was in till the end of the year. That's what the contract said. So the last performance of 2007. It was like the day before Christmas, I think, something like that. And so I did 104 performances. All right. Now that for Cirque du Soleil, that's nothing. You have people who've done 2,000 in Cirque du Soleil. But I did 104. But before every performance, I did these two exercises backstage in costume. And the young actors on that side of the entrance, half were on the other side, they could witness me and they saw what happened. And they saw the energy it generated. And there was very interesting things that happened when I did that. Now, I had done my own training in the morning. I had done my own warm-up before I got in makeup. But this is what I did just before the show started, backstage and in front of other people, moderating the movement because of space. But I did those two exercises. And
so Ira,
it's only a couple minutes. The first exercise, yeah, sorry.
That's okay. I just want to make sure you have time to tell us more about how we can work with you. Tell us a little bit about the structures that you have in place that allow people to connect with you and be mentored or be taught by you.
First of all, you can, my website is Ira Seid. So if you know my name or you put in Ira and Clown in Google, the website will come up. That has my email. That has the creative mentorship, which I highly recommend to people, even professionals. It's part-time and it's very interesting and it's adapted to whatever the individual's trying to develop. Are we there? Yeah.
Yeah, this is
That's
the
the creative
website.
mentorship. Yeah. So that has information on the creative mentorship. It's simple. It's clear. And that's now referencing my book, the second book, Quantum Theater, Slapstick to Shakespeare. All right, so that's my website. And then, they can reach me with email. If you write to me on Facebook, please, please, please introduce yourself and say hello. Don't just send a friend request because I get a lot and I don't know the people. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know why they're contacting me. So if you want to contact me via Facebook, I'm very happy to do that. But please say maybe you saw Barnaby's show or Clown-versation or however you want to word it. Then I know who you are and I'll friend you right away. A lot of people have written to me and also professionals write to me to friends. And they don't say hello. They don't write to me. So I think if you want to join via Facebook, I'm very open to that. Just please introduce yourself, okay?
Tell us a bit more about your book.
I have this fantastic page that you've been. Oh, the book. Well, that's that Clown's Secret. That one, that way. Yeah, and the second one is Quantum Theater. But chapter 2 has the exercises I just explained. It was talking about, has some step-by-step instructions, and it's got the whole basic introduction, the whole thing called the 4 articulations. So that's all. That's what chapter 2 is. It's got step-by-step, and if you take it, it's not so easy to learn just from reading for some people. Contact me. There's some videos for some of the exercises, a few of them, but those are just quick demos. Like what I did today, I didn't do the whole exercise. I did the first part of it. Okay.
So
you can always. You're very well.
We have a couple minutes left, so there's a few options.
Write to me in 10 years. You're welcome to. touch wood, we're all here.
There's a what should we finish with? Shall we finish watching your Chaplin's Eye, a little bit of Chaplin's Eye, or shall we finish with the exercise?
Yeah. No,
Okay.
because I've been blah blah blah. So you can look at this show, Chaplin's Eye. We're only looking at a minute or 2 minutes, and it's the finale where the ghost of Chaplin has just come in to join these 4 different clowns. So most of the show was the other clowns, and then I come in as the ghost of Chaplin. And I think where you had said you had it, I had already appeared on stage. And the ghost of Chaplin is the Deus Ex Machina. You know,
yeah, we're gonna go
that's from the Greek idea.
Let's see. Let's find the right spot. Think about around.
Yeah, that's good. Anywhere there, or before if you want.
So we can just bring the volume down on that, and you could, I guess while we're watching it, you could tell us a little bit about it if you want.
Yeah, the idea of the show, somebody had seen me do a short little piece I made for 7 actors. It was in a collection of pieces, and my piece was, I don't know, maybe it was 7 minutes or something, and it had about 7 actors. 2 of them are in this. That's the clown in the red and the clown in the green with the blonde wig. That's Jane. They were in that original piece, and I was somebody really liked it, and they said, "Look, I have a theater, and I have a theater rented for this day, and I have the money for it, but I don't want to do the show. Would you like to use it?" So I said, "Okay, this is the idea of Chaplin's. That's how it came. It was, again, practical, mechanical. But I had been thinking for a long time that there's not enough talk in the clown teaching world about Chaplin and other great clowns, and talking about them in a very specific way I'm referring to, because Chaplin was not just a clown, even though he said he was always a clown. His main pieces, his feature-length films, are, to me, they're like Charles Dickens, or they're like Shakespeare. They are on a very high level of what they're talking about humanity. So he's not just a clown. He was a great artist, and in a way a philosopher. Especially, I'm talking about the feature films. So I wanted to put his name back in the game, right? So it's pretentious of me, but that's what I felt was needed in the clown teaching world. And that was the beginning of this idea. And the seeds of ideas are important for creativity. And so I came up with this idea, and I wanted it to be a ensemble piece. And I was also looking at the no theater at the time. I was studying a bit about that, reading a bit about it. And I wanted to use the ghost. They use a ghost in their shows. And so I thought I'll make Chaplin the ghost. And because I was directing, I wanted to come on at the end so that I could, give the four actors all my love and care as the director. I didn't want to be involved on stage in the beginning. And and you'll see. I mean, if anybody watches, it's on YouTube. We're just watching the finale, the last 10 or 15 minutes, and but there's so much clown knowledge and history that I put in there. And again, like the other piece, I'm using really ancient knowledge, but I'm using it in a very very modern way and integrating it thematically in acting and the theater of it. I don't know what else to say. There was another aspect that I had seen Slava's Snowshow already twice, once in 1999 and once around 2004 or 5. So this piece I created in 2005, and I thought I wanted to return back to my roots as a clown, which was silent or non-verbal, and so I wanted to make a piece where maybe I could make a troupe, something like Slava's show, but in another way. But definitely inspired from Slava's show, which I love. I love the show, and I love that it's non-verbal. But as you saw in my other piece, I love text. I love Shakespeare, Beckett, all this stuff. But these are text-based clowning, and they're great. They're not better or worse, but silence is not better. It's just a different way. So it's very nice that you've selected these two pieces where we're juxtaposing. Yeah. And sorry, I have there's a lot I can say, but that's just a little introduction to some of the how I came to do this piece.
Ira, I hope that you will come back and do another Clown-versation, because I feel like there's a whole, several episodes to this. But I can't believe how much we've got through in this hour, really. We've watched, you've shown us exercises, you've talked about your history, we've watched some of your work. I feel like we've just had an amazing sort of teaser of all that you are and all that you've brought to the clown world. And it's really enlarged my awareness, reading your blog posts, watching your videos, and now listening to you talk. I feel like it's expanded my kind of awareness and consciousness around clown, and I'm sure that everyone else watching would feel the same. So I just want to thank you so much for coming on today and talking with us, and I hope you'll come back someday. Gladly.
Thank you very much, Barnaby. We did a lot together, and I hope it's not too much for the people viewing, and we'll be in touch. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, blessings, Ira. Thank you so much, and I'll see you again very soon. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna take you off, Ira. So bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Oh my goodness, wasn't that amazing? We even went over time because there was just so much richness, and it was, for me, just wonderful and rich. So thank you so much, Ira. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Please, if you've got people you'd like me to do Clown-versations with in the future, do drop me a line. I'm very open to that. Even if you have the contacts for them, that would be amazing. I just want to remind you as well about the Clown X. Tomorrow we have Joe Diefenbacher. In March, Avner Eisenberg. In April, Moshe Cohen. And the amazing clown teachers just keep on coming. So join in, get involved. And as always, you guys, keep clowning. Bye for now.